Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I am George. We're all George. So welcome back to another Market Open stream. Happy Monday. Today is the last day of September. And it looks like September's not done with us. We are seeing a down day today. But we know that a huge opportunity is coming in October. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you what's happening today and what's coming up this week and why it's so important and everything else that's going on in the world of crypto. All right, let's do it. Welcome, guys. Like I said, September is not done with us. Historically, the worst month for Bitcoin, but we are about to end it in the green. Actually, way in the green. But we are sitting a little bit lower right now versus yesterday, right around $64,000. And I do have a good explanation for it, even though it may not make a lot of sense. What is the explanation? Well, the US market is starting out a little bit in the red, okay? And Europe is a little bit in the red. And that's because Japan closed at almost minus 5%. I don't know if you guys realize minus 5% for an entire market is enormously horrible. It's really, really bad. So I do think it's just, it's just the tailwinds of that from Asia to Europe, now in the US, and we're seeing effects of that. But it's like you look and you don't see anyone talk about it. Like, why did Japan just all of a sudden fall 5% today? Why did it dump everything? Is it because of the end of September? Is it because of start October? No, it's because their party, the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, decided to change their leader because they were fed up with their old leader. And they're fed up with their policies and deflation and everything. And they decided to elect a new leader. And the new leader decided to call for a snap election rather than wait a full year for the people to vote. He decided to announce a snap election for next month. So that means there's a lot of disarray and turmoil and a whole lot of people are really scared about what's going to happen within this next month. So that's exactly what happened in Japan. I don't know how things actually work over there, but that's exactly what happened, right? So that's why Japanese market completely crashed. And again, like I said, we're seeing the tailwinds of that, right? This has nothing to do with the carry trade situation, although that could still be a thing. Their central bank governor said that they can still raise their rate if necessary to balance their yen, but that's not what happened today. It's because of this thing, and this thing can continue on for a while, or maybe it could get better. I don't know. I don't know anything about this new guy, but we do know that the Japanese economy is very different than all other economies. Rather than cut rates, they're the only ones looking to raise rates at this point. So, yeah, that's what happened. But, I don't want to just scare you guys with Japan because right next to them, another country, which I've been talking a lot about recently, China, they had their best day in history. Their exchange went up 22%, the largest single day gain in their history, right? And that's because I've been mentioning it. I mentioned yesterday's video, Sunday Walk video, and the cruise video, and last week, their government is starting to inject liquidity, kind of like ours, right? And when you have two of the biggest economies on the planet, and Japan's up there, they're not like they're nobodies. But when you have the two biggest starting to inject liquidity into their economies, that's a big deal, and that will trickle down, right? But I think today is a anomaly because of what happened in Japan. right? And plus, it's the last day of September, so maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, so in case you guys are wondering, like, oh, why do we go down? This thing with Japan is just really weird. I think people don't realize what a minus 5% day would be. If that happened in the US, if we had a minus 5% day, okay, that's equivalent of the Dow falling 2,000 something points in a single day. I mean, that's how, horrific it would be, right? So just to put things into context. Again, I think it's an anomaly. We'll get past it. In fact, look at NASDAQ is starting to turn into green again. So we may be just getting past it today. Moving past that, what's happening in the U.S., all right? I mentioned China is doing a lot of liquidity injections. Are we going to have the same thing in the U.S.? Are we going to have major liquidity injections? I believe so. We're going to do it in a different way, a slower way, but nevertheless, we're going to do it. Look at how many people are talking today or this week. I mean, you have 2 people talking today, including the main guy himself, Fed Chair Powell, and then look at everyone else. There's just, I don't know why there's so many people that need to talk about this thing, okay? There only needs to be one, and that's the main guy, Fed Chair Powell. But they're going to talk about, again, how the economy is and so forth, right? This week is important because we have manufacturing data and labor report. Those 2 things are absolutely crucial. We do have inflation numbers that show that inflation's going down, which is great. That's one part of it. There's 2 things that he's looking for: inflation and, I guess, jobs, right? Actually, 3 things: jobs, inflation, and economic activity, basically, those 3 things. So you got inflation going down, which is great. Jobs probably going down, which we will see. As long as it doesn't collapse this week, then we'll be okay. And then we got economic activity, which includes like manufacturing, which is very important. I'll show you why. And all these things basically affect his decision on the next cut and all future cuts, right? Which is coming in November. We have to wait a full month for that to happen. But as it stands right now, it's a really good chance to have another 50 basis point cut. So this is how the U.S. is going to inject a lot of liquidity into the space by just cutting our rates. By cutting the Fed fund rate, that does a lot. It cuts the prime rate. It cuts the mortgage rates. Essentially, it cuts the 10-year bond rate. It cuts every rate that is dependent on these rates. And that means businesses will start borrowing more money. Banks will start lending out more money. And consumers will start borrowing more money. And, it's a cycle, basically, of money being lent out. And not only that, there is money actually being printed too, being given out as well. That's part of this. So bottom line is, this is our way to inject capital and to have a full point cut. And this is not it too. And we still have December after that. In December, there's another chance. I mean, if you're looking at this, there's another chance of at least a 25 basis point and a 20% chance of another 50 basis point to cut over 1% within a matter of months, and maybe even 1.25 or 1.5%. That's huge. That would be probably the fastest cut in history. So that's our equivalency of capital injection, and that would be great. Great for markets. Whenever you see that, it's awesome for markets, and I'm looking forward to it. So you got 2 of the strongest and largest economies in the world, or governments, that's about to just inject a lot of money everywhere, and that's great. That is great. And here's another graph in case you're wondering. The global money supply is going up, and whenever you see that happen, right, not just the U.S. money supply, but the global money supply starting to tick up since June to now, it's ticked up about 5%. that means it's going somewhere. And whenever you see money starting to go up, being printed out of nowhere, out of thin air, and being used and distributed, generally speaking, you see assets and markets start skyrocketing too. So all great things happening right now behind the scenes. So do not panic. Do not worry, right? Better days are coming. Now, there is something significant. I didn't know this. This is also coming up tomorrow, actually. The manufacturing data that I mentioned that Powell is looking at. The last 3 times that this has come out, Bitcoin has dropped tremendously. In fact, over 10%. So is this going to repeat? So it's actually coming out tomorrow. July, August, September, all 3 times, the numbers were horrible. Okay, and Bitcoin dropped. Are these coincidences? I don't know. But it is coming out tomorrow. So I guess we'll see if Bitcoin's going to drop 10% tomorrow. I highly doubt it. Okay, but if the numbers come out really, 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 really badly, maybe there is a chance. But ultimately, I think we know the economy is slowing down. We're not like, we're not in full growth mode right now. Obviously, everyone's cutting back. The GDP is not growing. Jobs are not going up. People are spending less. Manufacturing is going to slow down. That's obvious, right? But unless the manufacturing data show that it is collapsing, I think we'll be fine. I guess we'll see. It's coming out tomorrow. Okay, now outside of all this macro stuff, what about Bitcoin, right? I said today's the last day of September. Okay, and September is historically the worst month for Bitcoin. And right now, we're looking pretty good. Unless we do tank 10% like tomorrow, we are sitting pretty at plus 9% right now, right? A win is a win. So last year, we were in green. This year, we're in a green right now, right? Maybe September wants to claw that back. But if you look at 2022 all the way through 2017, all reds. But I like to remind you guys, many of those years were due to rate hikes from Fed Chair Powell, including 2020, 2021, 2022. They were all during years when Powell started raising rates. So I would argue if we weren't in situations where rates were being hiked, maybe they could have been in green, right? So maybe September would not have been so bad. But nevertheless, we are looking pretty good right now in the green. One thing's for certain, October looks fantastic. No matter how you slice it, we've only had 2 years of red. Every other year have been green. That's why we call it Uptober. On average, we see a 22.9% gain in October. Does not mean that we have to see that, but this is going all the way back to 2013. On average, that is what we are seeing. And again, everything else I'm saying about the macro conditions, the liquidity injections, the rate cuts, and everything else, right? It's all aligning. It's all aligning. So I think October is going to be absolutely fantastic. And of course, it's 1 month away from November, which then we're going to have a huge election in the U.S., and that could also propel us forward too, right? But if you're looking at, generally speaking, November could be a good, really good. If you look at 2020, look at what happened in 2020. 2020 was the last halving year, right? So look at how bullish 2020 was. Not only did we get a 27.7% gain in October, we followed that up with a 43% gain in November, and then a 47% gain in December. I'd say those are pretty good numbers. And then you go back to the halving year before that in 2016, not as bullish, but still a 15% gain in October, 5% gain in November, and a 31% gain in December. So if you look at halving years, generally speaking, you have very good October, November, December, right? Generally speaking. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be the case, but with the macro conditions, with everything else that's going on, I think it's likely to repeat. So I think the last 3 months are going to be absolutely fantastic. And tomorrow is the start of it. Tomorrow is October. All right, what else? If you're looking at patterns, we're still in this giant cup and handle pattern, right? And once we do break out, which is about to happen, this is likely going to happen, right? Once we do, we're going to form that new high. I don't know when exactly. It could start tomorrow because it's October. I don't know if it's going to start the first day of October. But generally speaking, if you look at charts, and I could look at it during Q&A and show you guys, sometime in October normally is when we have the start of the parabolic run. And when we break out, generally speaking, it just starts going nutty. And it just starts going up and it just never stops. Generally, that's what happens. And this time around, we will go back to the 70s. We will break through our previous high. And we'll end up somewhere in the 80s or 90s. Or maybe we won't stop and we'll go into the 100,000 range, right? I do think that is still in line for the end of this year, right? And after that, you know what? We'll just keep on continuing and we'll end up somewhere around here. 200, 300,000. I don't know where it's going to go. But if we're following previous patterns, that's just how it is. Like I said, if you look at October, that's when we start going. Sometime in October, even in 2020, most of you guys remember that. It was a very bearish time. Bitcoin was hovering around $10,000. Did not look like it was going to move because it just recovered from falling to $4,000. It was sideways. No one thought in 2020 that it was going to go on a parabolic run. Okay, we were still in lockdown. We were still in a pandemic. The numbers were still coming out. It was super bearish. Everyone was still home and without a job. And guess what? Bitcoin still went up from 10,000 to nearly 70,000. It still went up. And it happened before and it's going to happen again. So, I mean, it's just really that simple. And then here's another chart. Here's a rainbow chart in case you guys want to know. Where is this going to, this is projecting, okay, all the halvings after that. But if you're looking at this, by the end of 2025, it's hard to say. It's hard to see where it is. But this is projecting like if we go past 2025 and then we go to the next halving, in 2028 and then 2029, sometime in 2029 is when, it'll be close to the end of the next bull run, which is only, if you think about it, not that far away, only like 5 years away. But at that point, is it realistic to see Bitcoin at $1 million? Yeah. Even if we're not at $1 million, even if we're like kind of like in between, we're like 400, 500,000. Even if we're at the low point at that level, at that time frame, we would be like $270,000. That's in 5 years. That's in 5 years. If we're moving to according to plan. Now, unless something drastic happens and we fall out of this, which I don't think is going to happen, this is showing you like the most bearish scenario in 5 years. So that's interesting to think about, right? And of course, this could be wrong in terms of the upside because in 5 years, if BlackRock holds like 20% of the supply now, and countries are now fighting over what's left because the US and China and Russia and everyone else is now hoarding Bitcoin because they realize that Bitcoin is the currency that everyone wants, then Bitcoin could be at like $10 million. in 2029. It could be very, very off because this is not anticipating the amount of demand that could exist in 5 years. Um, it really doesn't. All right, all right. That's pretty much it. Let's do some Q&A. Man, I gotta say, I think I was on a roll today, huh? That was pretty smooth, if I say so myself, all the way through. I missed a super chat earlier today. I think it scrolled off already. I think it was Sui the New Soul. I'm not quite sure I can make that determination yet, but it has been doing very well, so I'll say that. Stephen Young is asking, um, looking at this coin called Ally, could this what? No show most tokens look at I hold this coin called Ally, and the two charts over 7 days look different. Could this do tokens be unlocked? Are you saying it's good or bad? Yeah, I mean it's a AI play. I heard of this before. I don't know what you're asking. Could this due to tokens being unlocked? Are you talking about because it hasn't gone up as much as the other AI plays? It could be. I mean, there's many reasons why. There could be some insiders selling it, but there doesn't seem to be any particularly huge unlocks. It's been unlocking for a while, Steven. I don't know why this reset again. Jazzy says taxes. Mine are messy moving coins to storage. Hey, when you move, at least in the US, I don't know about other countries, when you move coins, that's not considered a taxable event. When you trade, they are. When you trade from anything, Bitcoin to stables, Bitcoin to ETH to Sol, Sol to whatever, those are taxable events. But if you're moving from Bitcoin from your Trust Wallet to Ledger, that's not taxable event. Okay, just so you know. Only when you trade, not when you move. Mariko Edwards, if you have 10 million Bitcoin or other crypto with the withdrawal limitations, how do you withdraw, let's say, 3 million at a time? You open up an institutional account. A lot of these exchanges do have it. Coinbase has it. Even like Tether or USDC, like Circle, Gemini, they have institutional accounts. So you open up and they'll take care of it. Those limitations are much bigger. Think about it. Think about if you were like BlackRock or someone, how are they doing it? There's ways to do it. They do like, hundreds of millions a day. Overall, not good for markets today. Nvidia down MicroStrategy down a little bit. Mara's down big. Robinhood down a little bit. I'm sure Coinbase is down today. I mean, today's disruption is just by one country, just Japan. Whatever just happened. Maddie Ace Gaming, hi all. Normally I miss the streams, watch VOD later. Well, I'm glad you're here. I am looking forward to October. I think October is going to be absolutely fantastic. And follow up with a fantastic November. And followed up with an even better December. If we mimic 2020... I think it may be hard to follow up 2020, okay? Because quite honestly, 2020 was... Bitcoin's price was much lower in 2020 than it is now. But if we come anywhere close to 2020's performance, or even half of the performance, just half. If we have, let's say, we have a 13% gain in October, and a 20% gain in November, and a 20% gain in December, that would already throw us, like... at $100,000. I mean, 2020 was just such a weird year, and Bitcoin still out of nowhere just started exploding. I mean, it just the stars aligned or whatever, and it just started happening. And I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys exactly what happened in 2020. Like, where's the halving event? All right. That was the halving event in 2020. That was in May. Bitcoin was at $8,500, in case you guys were wondering. Yeah, so how times have changed. 4 years ago, when we had a halving event, Bitcoin was at 8,500. Just let that sink in for a little bit. So again, those of you guys that are worried about $60,000 Bitcoin, just remember it was 8,500 4 years ago. And you can see it didn't move anywhere until like right around here, when it finally broke out at 10,000, and that was around October 7th. There was no rhyme or reason for it. It was about 140 days afterwards. Like all the way until September. It had a little stint over here where it went up, and then boom, right back down. Had no reason. No business at all. Until October rolled around, and then it just didn't stop. Right? Like it just didn't stop, and it just kept going. But here's a good reminder though. In parabolic bull runs. Okay, in parabolic bull runs, when we start moving. Now, this was a crazy move. We went from 10,000 to 41,000. So that's a 4x. Okay, so that lasted from October to January. So roughly 3 months. Then we had a horrific drop from 40,000 down to 28,000. That happens. In parabolic runs, we see tremendous drops. We always do. right? So don't think that it goes up forever linearly. It drops. And after falling to 28,000, guess what? We picked ourselves back up and we went up to 59,000, 58,000. Then we dropped again down to 43,000. Then we went up again to 62, dropped to 49. Then we went up to over here, 64, right? Then we did something that we've never done before, and you could argue that maybe it's due to FTX and SBF because we fell from 64,000 all the way down to 28,000. And people thought the run was over. But guess what? It wasn't. And we went all the way up back to 69,000. This kind of drastic drop and rise has never happened before. And again, some people argue it's because FTX was manipulating the hell out of the market to make this happen. But that's just a gentle reminder. So if we follow the same pattern, if we start moving up drastically in October, November, December, and maybe into January, we will probably see some drastic drops coming up, maybe in January or February or March. We will see those along the way. And then we'll pick ourselves back up and continue forward. That's just how it goes. All right, just go zoom back in here. Stephen Young, can you check out LICMC? Last 7 days, I want you to see what I'm seeing. Market cap jumps up. The price chart doesn't. It's a bad thing. Yeah, then it's just an unlock. Or they screwed up the numbers and they updated it. Okay, market cap, 7 days. It peaked around 110. Price. Yeah, you mean this? It could be unlocked. It could be they updated some numbers because the team told them to. Sometimes that happens because they have wrong numbers. I don't know what happened. You could go ask the team. That's the best way to do it. See if they have an explanation for it. Now that just threw this off. Victor, you're welcome. Nick says these dips are probably when Sailor nibbles a bit, buys a new yacht, then resumes DCing. I mean, that's just... At this point, most of you guys are regulars. I don't feel like I need to tell you when there are dips. Don't panic. Don't panic sell. Continue to hodl, and if you can, just continue to DCA. That's just how it is, right? That's the way. That's the way to win with Bitcoin and crypto. I think last week was a gentle reminder of what's to come. Last week was great for Bitcoin and for all of crypto. We saw a lot of crypto go up in a big way. Oh my God, I just noticed something. I just noticed something huge. Is this right? XRP is above 60 cents. Is this right? I thought XRP was still below 60 cents. When did this happen? Wow, we actually did have a lot of movement last week. XRP couldn't get above 60 cents for a long time, and now it's sitting at 62 cents. Is that right? Wow. See? It's last week was a good reminder of what's to come. A lot of alts moved, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Travis asked, have you checked out Tactum, SoftNote, TET? I have before. They claim they're like their fastest blockchain in history or whatever. Haven't paid attention to them recently, no. But I have heard of them. 1 year, they're still kind of off. Thoughts on AI coins on Solana? There was one that I was following. I think Nosana is like a DPIM play on Solana. They're not truly AI, but they're kind of AI. DPIN AI on Solana, 105 million. They're also kind of off. But I don't know of any other AI plays on Solana. People are saying XRP pumped to 67 cents. I did not see that. I must have missed that. Man, must have been exciting for XRP Army to see it pump to 67 cents. If XRP can hold above 60 cents, that's a good sign because it could not. Even after winning the last SEC lawsuit, it could not hold above 60 cents. So if it can stay above right now, that's a really good sign. That's a really good sign. Matt is asking, do you plan on dumping your profits in real estate in order to avoid taxes? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you buy business properties, you actually have to fix them in order to use those as deductions. Buying business properties themselves are not deductions. So it's different. I don't know if that's what you mean. So you have to buy like a property and then like really fix it, which then you're spending more money to try to avoid your taxes, and that seems kind of silly. You know, here's my thing, right? Like a lot of people in crypto, especially now, while they haven't made a lot yet, they're like, yeah, screw the IRS, screw taxes, I'm not gonna pay. Figure out legal ways to deduct your taxes and just pay now, right? It's better to do that than pay later when you have made millions upon millions upon millions, because that's when the IRS pays attention. When you actually buy your mansions and yachts and helicopters and businesses and your Rolls and your Lambos, when you start buying those things and the IRS pays attention, it's like, hey, where did the money come from? And they notice you didn't pay your taxes. That's when you're going to get in serious trouble. So my motto is pay your taxes, figure out legal ways or loopholes to get around those taxes now to minimize them, but don't avoid them, because it's better to pay them now than later. Because later, when you're much wealthier, that's when the consequences are much more. Do you think JP will be dovish or hawkish when he speaks? I don't know. At this point, I'm thinking he's gonna be more. He's still gonna be. He always has a hawkish tone when he talks, but he has to be more dovish these days, right? Like he has to just like start cutting rates. So I don't know if that in itself is considered dovish. Because inflation number shows that we are in the 2%. What he wants to see is 2% inflation. That's where we are. So he can't be too dovish, because then that would seem like he's saying we're going to recession. That's not what he wants to hint at. He doesn't want to hint that we're like going to full-blown recession. He wants to stop that. So I don't know. I don't know how to interpret like what's dovish and what's hawkish anymore, right? Like he wants to have the rate cuts, but he can't come off like too dovish where it seems like the economy is totally in shambles, where he has to cut so much, because then that way it seems like we're falling into recession. Why is Coinbase freezing transactions? Not that I heard of. What are your thoughts on security coins like NCT and Forta? What is NCT? Polyswarm and Forta. I don't think I've heard of Forta before. Decentralized watchtower protecting Web3. Oh, you mean security coins like actual like web security? I thought you meant like a security meaning like for profit or something like that. AI powered threat detection prevention for blockchain applications. It sounds good. Like, what does it do? Protects your wallet. It detects potential exploits with protocols and bridges. I mean, it sounds good. I just don't know if it's good. It gives you examples. It's bad. This one's backed by good guys like Coinbase Ventures, A16, Blockchain Capital. You got some big players here. This seems interesting, but the thing is, do people really care about a security project? Like, I guess in crypto, people just care if the price goes up, but like, it's not a sexy thing, right? People rather invest in like a hot game, for example. I don't know, people want to invest in a AI power threat detection tool, you know? I don't know. I kind of like this, actually. I kind of like this. I just don't know if they're going to do well. Yeah, see, here, case in point. They came out on July 22nd, and since then they have made really no moves at all. How you feel about buying real estate in Florida after Hurricane Helene? It's nice and cheap now to buy. No, I would never buy real estate in a place where it could get a hurricane, because even if you buy nice and cheap, guess what? Next year you have a hurricane, it's gone again. Like I just wouldn't risk it, and it sucks. And first of all, like, you know, condolences to everyone that lost their lives, and families that suffered, and the property destruction and everything. It's absolutely horrible. But yeah, I don't know why anyone would invest in those areas. It's just it would be stupid to do so. Me personally, I just don't like investing in real estate. I just feel like real estate's not worth it. But I guess I haven't been presented any good opportunities yet. I just think real estate's just too slow. I don't know. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. Overall, today's the last day in September. Today's not looking good, mostly because of one player, and that's Japan. Japan had this weird new prime minister, and he announced a snap election that caused a huge disruption, and that we're feeling tailwinds of that. And today is the last day of September. Maybe there's something to that. But we got a lot of great things coming up, guys. October, November, December, we got a lot of great things, a lot of capital injections, and great fundamentals, and everything else. So stay strong, my friends. I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Smash a like, subscribe to the channel. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.